In Generation 8, Blissey used the obscure item Utility Umbrella, opting to forgo strictly better items in order to fill a specific role. But why? We'll get to that soon. This made me think, what are the most niche item choices that actually saw competitive use? We're going to cover these today. All gens are fair game, and we'll look at why they saw use. Starting off, we have a semi-recent addition with the Adrenaline Orb. This item specifically activates when hit by the ability Intimidate. The Adrenaline Orb procs and will raise the holder's speed by 1 stage. This consumes the item, so it's one use, one opportunity. But in doubles, where Intimidate is pretty common and speed control is crucial, this obscure item found its way onto some mons in Generation 7. Melodic could use it to heavily punish Intimidate spam, since it could gain a +2 from its competitive ability and then the speed boost, allowing it to outpace and punish mons like Incineroar with a boosted Scald, and common Ice Weak mons like Garchomp and Salamence with a now really strong Ice Beam. I also found a set for Adrenaline Orb itself in Generation 7 UU, who could bait in revenge killers like Scarf Crocodile and Mega Manectric. It could set up a nasty plot, KO its target, and find itself at a pretty good +1 speed and +2 special attack when these mons swap in. This could just let it sweep, since at 115 base speed, there aren't too many mons outpacing or surviving his elf. Mons like Latias could pull this off in the UU tier as well with its better bulk. That makes it less susceptible to common priority, but his elf is faster and hits harder, while Latias lacks the immediate power of Nasty Plot compared to its calm mindsets. In Generation 8, we were introduced to the demon that is Regieleki. Really took the fast special attacking electric type stereotype and ran with it. 200 base speed and an ability that boosts his electric stab. This mon could even outspeed most Scarf mons and wreak havoc. That is, unless you were smart enough to come prepared with a ground type that completely walled Mr. Reginald. With virtually zero coverage, outside of busting all over the place or smacking you with a 60 base power move, people were determined to find a way around Regieleki's glaring weakness. This is where the item Ring Target came into play. An absolutely bonkers item to run suddenly became a little less bonkers. Let me break it down for you. The Ring Target removes any type-based immunities from the holder. So a flying type would now be struck by ground type attacks, steel types now drenched in poison, and so on. This meant you could use a mon with Trick or Switcheroo to swap a Ring Target onto the opposing team's ground type. This could be accomplished by having Regieleki hit the field and then doubling out into your Ring Target user as you bait in their ground type. A mon like Jirachi would tempt the ground type to stay in and smack it with an Earthquake, but usually not before receiving the Ring Target and leaving them vulnerable to Aleki's Wrath. You could also use Zoroark disguised as Regieleki and trick their ground type swap in immediately, as it is pretty risky to let most mons take a Specs T-Bolt or Volt Switch from Regieleki. Definitely niche, but the payoff of having your Regi unleashed could definitely be worth it. And even without a ground type to trick, you could remove a different immunity and steal back an important item. Next, we're going to talk about Metronome. Not the move, but an item that gradually increases the power of your attacking moves when used consecutively. It can be a decent item in a playthrough when you have limited options, but it takes a while to build up the power to a point you wouldn't want to use it over better, more immediately powerful items. Even though this item has been around since Generation 4, it didn't really have any niche until around Gen 7. This is notably viable on flinch spammers like Shaman Sky, Togekiss, and Celesteela with Autonomize. It could also be seen on ice spammers like Mamoswine, Kyurem, and Cryogonal. You could gradually build up the damage against bulky mons who normally could tank your hits while threatening secondary effects like flinch or freeze. This is not often a great item due to needing to stay in multiple turns, pressing the same move turn after turn. But in certain scenarios, it definitely can help you get past annoying heal spammers and build up to a 2x boost in your move's power. Going back in time a bit, we see the item Bright Powder, or as I prefer to call it, Better Focus Band. This item makes accuracy checks against the holder 90% of their original accuracy. You might get a dodge here or there, but generally it's unreliable and isn't worth using. But combined with abilities that raise your evasion, your odds at making your opponent rage quit drastically increase. Mons like Sandslash and Cacturn could use it with Sandveil, often in combination with Substitute, trying to grab 3 turns by dodging attacks. It became a problem, and these abilities were eventually banned from Smogon singles tiers. Not only this, but Bright Powder itself has also been banned. In doubles, this strategy would show up every now and then. You could see Bright Powder on Frostlass or Articuno with Snowcloak paired with Alolan Ninetales and Aurora Veil. So not only are you hard to hit in the first place with the ability and item combo, but you also had the boosted defenses from Snow and the screens up. I know based on my YouTube analytics, most of my audience are Kings, so you should be familiar with the next item, King's Rock. This item was usually seen as an evolution method in-game, but has the effect of giving the user's moves that don't already have a flinch chance a 10% chance to flinch. Nothing too special really. You have to use it on a fast mon, and you get a 10% chance for your opponent not to move at the cost of not running a better item. This is a hard pass on like 98.3% of Pokemon. But King's Rock works for every hit of multi-strike moves, which made it an option for Pokemon with the ability Skill Link. Skill Link guarantees the maximum amount of hits from your multi-strike moves, so on a Pokemon like Cloyster, you would do the usual Shell Smash shenanigans, followed by hitting your opponent with a 5-hit Icicle Spear or Rock Blast. Not only would these be extremely powerful attacks hard to switch into, but with King's Rock equipped, you were also gaining around a 41% chance to flinch your opponent. This made it so you were usually 1 flinch away from defeating your opponent's Cloyster answer and sweeping the game. Any Steel type who would come in to resist your Ice and Rock type moves runs the risk of getting chipped and flinched down into range of getting taken out by Hydro Pump. Any slow Pokemon in general that isn't getting hit super effectively runs the same risk, as you have solid odds to just luck your way to a win. This could be used and definitely was seen on other Skill Link users from time to time, like Sensino and Ambipom, who were already fast enough to abuse King's Rock without setup, but Cloyster was definitely the most notable and threatening user, and eventually King's Rock was banned due to causing games to come down to too much RNG, which really doesn't determine who the better player in the match was. If you got lucky flinches, you could win easily. Kinda reminds me of a couple other mons that use a similar strategy. Hopping back to Gen 5, I have to mention a classic. This is the Chilan Berry, which halves the amount of damage taken from a normal type attack. This berry is usually straight chillin' in your bag, never to be used. But Base Deoxys wanted to be used in Uber so bad that it found a niche with it. Being horribly outclassed in virtually every role it could have by its other forms, Deoxys would use Chilan Berry to survive in Arceus' Life Orb Swords Dance boosted extreme speed and KO it with counter. Focus Sash accomplishes the same thing in most cases, but this lets you swap in on Stealth Rocks or a layer of spikes and still survive the hit. It could also help against some other normal type attacks like Mega Kang's Fake Out, but the E-Killer tech is pretty much the main calling of this set. This set didn't really take off as Base Deoxys' Glazers might have hoped, but it is still relevant enough for a mention and somewhat puts its obscure berry on the map. In doubles play, most mons use Protection, but in the carefree singles metas this isn't too common. In Generation 7, we were introduced to the Protective Pads, giving some incentive for singles mons to wrap things up. Protective Pads prevent the holder from taking effects caused by hitting another mon with a contact move. While this item didn't immediately take off, it ended up seeing some notable use in Generation 8. Rocky Helmet being everywhere, along with tons of punishing abilities like Iron Barbs, Rough Skin, Flame Body, Static, and more, made it hard for some mons to spam their attacks without getting worn down or neutered by status. So some of them started strapping on the pads for their own well-being. Mons like Melmetal and Cortana pretty much exclusively use contact moves, so avoiding negative effects like Zapdos' Static or Flame Body from some common mons was much appreciated, especially with Double Iron Bash making contact twice. Multi-strike move lovers Cincino, Ambipom, Serena, and Waterbender or Shifu could spam away not worrying about being punished by Rocky Helmet, Iron Barb's combos, which lessened the risk of 50-50s like a Ferroform swap in on Surging Strikes, or Volcarona flame bodying you on a U-turn. You trade the immediate power boost from more offensive items for a safer approach which favors longevity and takes away a lot of hacks potential. Similar to protective pads, the item Punching Glove was introduced in Generation 9. This does the same thing protective pads does, but also boosts punching moves by 10%. The kicker, it only protects the user while using punching attacks, so you'll be vulnerable to contact effects otherwise. This puts it in direct competition with protective pads for a niche item to use on a select few mons. Except now, we are only tasked with choosing from mons who enjoy slugging it out. Urshifu is obviously a solid choice for this if you aren't running a choice set, as your Surging Strikes will be slightly boosted while being protected. You could also run a slightly boosted Drain Punch over close combat, along with boosted Elemental Punches for coverage. Melmetal and National decks could also run this effectively, with Double Iron Bash being a punching move, along with it often using Thunder Punch as coverage. There's other mons that could in theory use this item effectively, but these are the more notable ones that I've seen or used myself. They did this next item so dirty. This is the Quick Claw, an OG item that gives the user a 20% chance to move first within their priority bracket. This did have some niche usage, notably on Galarian Slowbro, who combined it with its signature ability Quick Draw, which gives you an additional 30% chance to move first. This coined the Quick Draw, Quick Claw combo set, which gave Slowbro around a 44% chance to move first each turn. While we talk about Quick Claw, you should quickly subscribe to the channel for more riveting Pokemon content. If I even get the 20% procced on all of you watching, my road to 20k could be done tomorrow. 44% to move first is a pretty solid chance, as that is much higher odds than Scald Burning and Focus Blast missing, which are all but guaranteed outcomes. Slowbro, at 30 base speed, could set up a nasty plot and proceed to go gambling, hoping its item or ability procs and let it outspeed and KO its target before they have a chance to act. You can afford to go full bulk in offense as well, since there is no need for speed investment. You could also run a Belly Drum set with Drain Punch recovery if you're really feeling frisky, as this Slowbro variation has even attacking stats. Quick Claw being done dirty was it getting banned from competitive play alongside other RNG based items like the previously covered Bright Powder and King's Rock. I think Quick Claw was definitely the most fun and least harmful to keep around, but I guess I understand their decision making. While we're on the topic of items only being used when they synergize with abilities, I have the item Sticky Barb next. Sticky Barb hurts the holder by 1/8 of their max HP each turn. Why would you ever use this? Well, you don't want to hurt your own mon, but you can use it to cripple an opposing mon. Sticky Barb is not a totally uncommon option to see on Clefable, wanting to tag it onto another mon. It will use Knockoff to rid the opponent of their item, and then when Clef gets hit by a contact move, it will give the Sticky Barb to the mon making contact. Thanks to Magic Guard, this has great synergy, as a Sticky Barb won't activate to damage Clef, and your opponent will be unaware that you have it in the first place. Mons like Corviknight or Gliscor, who are common swap-ins to Clef, can be crippled this way. Even a mon like Roaring Moon could be given it, since it wouldn't need to be knocked off thanks to having the consumable booster energy. This can also be used on Klutz Pokemon pretty effectively in lower tiers. Mons like Golurk and Lopunny won't feel the effects of held items, so they can transfer the Sticky Barb without the opponent seeing it coming. I teased Utility Umbrella Blissey at the beginning, now it's time to actually cover it. In Generation 8, this wacky item was introduced, and people kind of wondered, but why? And for the most part, they were right in thinking that. See, the Utility Umbrella makes the user unaffected by effects of rain and harsh sunlight. So your growth in the sun would only boost you 1 stage instead of 2, your type-based moves wouldn't have their power increased or decreased, and other moves like Synthesis wouldn't be nerfed in rain or boosted by sun. So why did Blissey use this? Well, in the Ubers tier, there's this mon called Kyogre that's pretty good. It is certainly a task to swap into its rain boosted water spouts and origin pulses. Sure, you can dedicate a slot to a water absorb mon, but that might just be dead weight against the rest of the tier. Instead, people started using the premier special wall Blissey as a reliable Kyogre check. With the utility umbrella, it ignores the rain boost Kyogre gets on its stab moves, effectively neutralizing its drizzle benefits. It does some other cool things, like removing Thunder's perfect accuracy against it. Blissey can swap in on a full power, max special attack, Specs Kyogre using Water Spout in the rain and not get two-shot by it, even after taking rocks damage. An absolute Chad this mon is. The next one we have is for the item Mail.
You've got mail.
You might have heard this one, but I would be a fool not to cover it. Also this late in the video, I know people will be commenting about it either way. Mail is an interesting item since it had the unique property of not being able to be tricked. Trick with a choice item is a popular way to cripple support Pokemon since they rely on changing up their moves. A mon like Blissey, who has reliable recovery, might prefer to essentially have no item over running leftovers in a matchup where it doesn't have to worry about getting tricked. But the fact that Mail of all items had more competitive impact than items specifically made for competitive play is pretty ironic. Speaking of that, I've been thinking of making a video ranking all competitive items in Pokemon. It'd be a pretty big commitment, so let me know if you'd want to see it. Gallade was lucky enough to receive a huge buff in Generation 9, receiving the new ability Sharpness. This allowed it to become Employee of the Month at the local deli. But before this, it had to rely on more than slicing and dicing to do good damage. In Generation 8 PU, Gallade would often run the item Muscle Band to wall break. This item provides a pretty mild 10% boost to physical attacks. So why use this over the better boosting items? Well, while Muscle Band provides a smaller boost than you're used to, it has unique beneficial qualities over them. The 20% type boosting items like Black Belt would provide a nicer boost to fighting moves, but would only boost at typing. An Expert Belt would give you a 20% boost as well, but only on super effective hits. Life Orb gives you 30% boost and is commonly seen, but comes at the cost of 10% of your max HP per turn. While a Choice Band gives you a 50% boost, but locks you into the first move you choose. Muscle Band is weaker, but more consistent for Gallade since it will always give you the boost, and this was enough to help Gallade secure KOs and 2-hit KOs on certain mons. Close Combat would take care of Quagsire switching in without having to predict, while Knockoff could take care of mons like Hatchrim. Muscle Band was a unique fit onto this set to give Gallade the boost it needed while also letting it stick around long term. I have a couple niche items that have similar uses next. These are the Lagging Tail and Iron Ball. Starting with the Lagging Tail, this is exclusively used as an item you want to trick. It will cause the holder to move last in the priority bracket, regardless of their speed stat. This can sometimes be seen on prankster mons like Grimmsnarl, Sableye, and Whimsicott to heavily cripple an opposing mon while taking a beneficial item back. It's kind of like a permanent quash. The Lagging Tail will make the holder move last and will ignore things like Tailwind, Trick Room, and any other speed modifiers. It makes them a whole lot easier to deal with. I will add this is interchangeable with the item Full Incense, which has the same effect, but Lagging Tail is simply cooler. Iron Ball, on the other hand, is a more versatile option. It halves the holder's speed stat while also grounding any non-grounded Pokemon. This can also be tricked to have a similar effect that the Lagging Tail does. While it doesn't guarantee you outspeeding the opponent, halving the speed stat is quite the nerf while also allowing you to hit flying or levitating mons like Zapdos and Rotom forms with ground attacks for super effective damage. But the versatility is what saw this item see a bit of use here and there. Iron Ball halving your speed can help you make sure your weather is the one that stays up. But this item can just be used as a damage boosting option. Iron Ball halving speed allows steel type mons like Aegislash and Berserker to increase their damage output on Gyro Ball. This move is more powerful the slower the user is compared to the target, So an Iron Ball with minimum speed can often result in a consistent 150 base power attack. And of course this can be used on Trick Room teams as well to become a lot faster. I'm gonna finish off with another absolute classic. This is TR43. This is the TM for Overheat, by the way. You've probably heard of this one, but Kieran Black used to use this item in Ubers to take on Necrozma Dusk main, who otherwise walled it pretty well. Fling is a dark type attack that varies in power based on your held item, and with these TRs introduced, it will take on the base power of the move it teaches. So at 130 base power, TR43, which is the TM for Overheat if you're new here, allowed Kieran to hit Necrozma with a really powerful, super effective fling. This was a one-time use though, which made it pretty gimmicky to run the TM. TM is slang for tactical machine, by the way, chat. I'm just using slang. It didn't make this mon great by any means, but that's why it's in this video. A niche is a niche for a reason. If it was that great, then more people would be using it. Some honorable mentions that I thought about including are the Scope Lens, which increases the user's critical hit ratio by 1 stage. I feel this one isn't too underground, being used on mons like Kingdra pretty often, alongside Super Luck mons. Wide Lens is another one that was a bit under the radar, but is becoming a lot more used as people get more and more sick of missing. Triple Axle mons love it, Mouse Hold loves hitting all 10 times, and of course Hustle mons enjoy missing less of their boosted attacks. Shell Bell is another one that is pretty niche, used on level 1 Fear mons to regain their sturdy and get back to full health. But are there any other niche items that you've seen have a decent impact competitively? Let me know, as I always love hearing about these cool situations in Pokemon. Special shout out to my YouTube and Patreon supporters, including Goldbud, Mr. Frank Beans. If you want channel perks or just want to support the channel, check out my links in the description. And if you like this video, make sure to check this one out next. See you in the next one, buds.